the rapport between the then American and Chinese negotiators paved the way to the 2015 Paris Accord, former US President Barack Obama has now sternly criticized China's President Xi Jinping and Russia's President Vladimir Putin for not joining other leaders at the climate talks in Glasgow. Xi Jinping skipped the 26th United Nations Climate Change Conference, also known as the COP26, in the Scottish port city, sending in a written statement instead that was largely unremarkable and made no new pledges. The climate talks and the recent G20 summit in Rome aren't the only international meetings that China's leader has not attended in person. Xi Jinping hasn't left China in nearly 22 months since January 2020, when the COVID pandemic first exploded. With China being the #1 carbon polluter in the world, Xi's absence drew criticism from US President Joe Biden as well and raised many questions about China's commitment to reducing greenhouse gas emissions.
I think it's been a big mistake, quite frankly, for China, in respect to China not showing up. The rest of the world is going to look to China and say, what value added are they providing?
Biden added that China had made a big mistake in bypassing the events because they have lost an ability to influence people around the world. Now, Xi isn't alone in skipping the meetings in Rome and Glasgow. Russian President Vladimir Putin, whose country has aligned with China in opposing US influence in world affairs, also remained at home. Barack Obama, in his address, called on all world leaders to step up now and criticized China and Russia for a dangerous absence of urgency on the climate crisis.
Most nations have failed to be as ambitious as they need to be. The escalation, the ratcheting up of ambition that we anticipated in Paris 6 years ago has not been uniformly realized. I have to confess, it was particularly discouraging to see the leaders of two of the world's largest emitters, China and Russia, decline to even attend the proceedings. And their national plans so far reflect what appears to be a dangerous lack of urgency, a willingness to maintain the status quo on the part of those governments. And that's a shame. We need advanced economies like the US and Europe leading on this issue. But you know the facts. We also need China and India leading on this issue. We need Russia leading on this issue, just as we need Indonesia and South Africa and Brazil leading on this issue. We can't afford anybody on the sidelines.
Obama's appearance sought to remind governments of the elation that surrounded the Paris Accord and urged them to announce more immediate, concrete steps to put the 2015 deal into action. He said, "Optimism and unity is required to save the planet."
I understand that it's harder to get international cooperation. There are more global tensions. But there is one thing that should transcend our day-to-day politics and normal geopolitics, and that is climate change.
The UN Climate Conference in Glasgow is the former American president's first since he helped deliver the triumph of the 2015 Paris Climate Accord, when nations committed to cutting fossil fuel and agricultural emissions fast enough to keep the Earth's warming below catastrophic levels of 1.5 degrees Celsius. But China, along with 77 other developing countries, has said that talks during the COP26 cannot be regarded as successful until the conference produces finances to help poor countries, which is a point echoed by many and made very strongly by India, with Prime Minister Modi seeking $1 trillion in financing, many times the $150 billion that was agreed to in Paris, which also remains undelivered by the so-called Global North. Responding to US President Joe Biden's remarks, Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Wang Wenbin has said that China's response to climate change is concrete, pointing to recent achievements in reforestation and renewable energy. China, for its part, still sees coal and oil as necessary to keep fueling an economy that is gunning to the largest in the world. The country's lead negotiator at the UN summit said, China must first become wealthier before it can transition faster to renewable energy. China, Xi added, can accelerate its emission cuts later. Now, China has committed to have a carbon neutral economy by 2060. That is 10 years later after the US. The question for America then might be, how much of a difference those 10 years could make for the world's two leading powers and what it would mean for the planet that is warming very, very quickly.